The Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, Jessie Duarte, and we're talking about the ANC's election plans. Before the break, we were speaking, of course, about the middle class and that you're not going to walk away from that sector of people. But let's come, of course, to the African National Congress machine.
Yes.
Your organization is very large. You've got over 1 million members. You're speaking of putting, 1 million volunteers into the field. Take us through the way in which that machine functions and how you're going to get it operational, particularly if one considers that some of your provinces are experiencing very real problems. You've had to dissolve provincial executive committees. You've had to, in some instances, even go to regional structures and dissolve them. How confident are you, Jessie, that those structures, even those ones in Limpopo and the Northwest, for example, will be able to get into election mode?
Karima, at the moment we have 8 provincial structures that are fully functional, with the exception of Limpopo, which is under the curatorship of a provincial task team. So 8 very strong provincial structures are in place. In each province we have a provincial election team. Irrespective of the fact that we have elected provincial executive committee members, we have provincial election teams, which are a combination of elected people and volunteers of people with strong experience in working in ANC elections over the past elections, over the past 20 years. So senior, solid cadreship of the movement, people who understand the ANC, and then to support those provincial structures, we have regional election teams in 53 regions of the country, ANC regions of the country, and supporting those regions, we have sub-regions, which are zonal committees of election teams that work on a full-time basis. Supporting those are our branch election teams. 4,866 of those exist throughout the country. So in every ward that the IEC has declared in this country, we have an ANC branch election team. Now, provinces have volunteers ranging between 70,000 in a province. The smallest number of volunteers that has been launched has been 5,000 thus far in the Western Cape. That's the smallest number.
The Western Cape is the one area that the ANC doesn't control. The Western Cape ANC has developed a strategic perspective called Path to Power that outlines the strategy that the ANC there has set for itself. At a national level, are you recapturing the Western Cape as an election target?
Karima, we're not leaving any province uncontested, let me put it that way. We will work exceptionally hard everywhere in the same degree, with the same amount of resources that would go into any other province is going to go into the Western Cape, including additional volunteers to work in the Western Cape. We're recruiting right now people in the rural areas, in the Southern Cape, in the Boerland, in the Overberg, and we are asking, we're also getting a great deal of support from COSATU structures and from the South African Communist Party in all the provinces. So we're not leaving the Western Cape to chance. We know that it will be a difficult fight. We know that the program of the DA, including that they worked for against apartheid program, seems to be having some resonance amongst people who don't know better. But we're going out to tell the real story, and we're not going to be shy to say that there's a problem with the story that the DA is telling and giving the facts. So in the Western Cape, there will be a different approach to what there might be in other provinces.
Take us through how the approach will be different.
It will be somewhat different because there's been no development in the Western Cape, in black communities in particular. What has developed in the Western Cape has been the metro, which has benefited mainly white South Africans who have moved from other provinces to the Western Cape. But when one looks at what has happened in Khayelitsha, in Gugulethu, but let me not even go there. Let's look at the apple areas in the Overberg, Grabouw. Let's go to even beyond that. Let's go to black communities in the Stellenbosch area. Let's go to further afield. Let's go to George. Let's go to areas where the DA has made some inroads but only supported white communities, and not coloured and African communities, where there's been absolutely no tangible development, and where national government has supported national programs in Atlantis, for example. I think there's a wonderful story about a factory that the DTI brings into Atlantis, and the DA comes in with an entourage and claims that as theirs. Now, I think this is wrong, and we need to tell the truth about who is really developing what in the Western Cape.
But historically, the rural areas in the Western Cape has traditionally voted ANC. You've lost that. What are you going to do differently to get those communities back?
Well, I think the farm communities have come back to the ANC in a very big way. I think that has been public knowledge for a while. I also think that if one looks at other areas, people have come back to the ANC because they have not been serviced by the DA. The Western Cape has always been a very, very insecure voting community. But we feel that people have come back to us, and we've seen an increase in some, if we only look at voting averages, for up to 13%, where the DA has lost to the ANC. Mm-hmm. We've won more wards from the DA than they've taken from the ANC.
Is this now in by-elections as you've been?
In various by-elections.
Okay, let's move nationally. Mm-hmm. The DA has set its sights on the Northern Cape, yes, and of course Gauteng, yes, provinces that you control. Mm-hmm. Are you confident that you'll be holding on to those provinces?
Well, I think fortunately for the ANC, in many ways, if one looks at the Northern Cape and the development that has gone into that province by the ANC-led government, it's unquestionable. And when we speak to the communities there's no confusion about who
but
has developed.
You have a provincial premier who's been ill for a very long time. Mm-hmm. You have a provincial chairperson that, mm-hmm, is accused, mm-hmm, or that is facing charges of, mm-hmm, corruption. Mm-hmm. It doesn't reflect well on the African National Congress. How are you going to ensure that people return to you, or stay with you rather, mm-hmm, given the fact that you have a clear problem with leadership in that province?
I don't think we have a problem with leadership, Karima, in the province of the Northern Cape. I think we have a problem with three leaders in particular in the Northern Cape.
So it's
province.
Individuals?
It's individuals. And as far as we know, those three individuals remain innocent until proven guilty, and they are facing charges. And we also are an organization that believes in the rule of law. We believe that they have to see their day in court. But what we have done is we're doing our research on the ground, and we do our research in a particular way. We go door to door and talk to people. And people are talking about what they have received in hard terms, mm-hmm, in developmental terms from the ANC.
And you think those are going to be the issues that make them stay with you?
That pleases them. I think in the Northern Cape, one issue we have picked up is that every other crime has gone down except white-collar crime. Mm-hmm. And that relates directly to the issues of corruption, right, which we're dealing with. We're not leaving that, and we're not sweeping it under the carpet.
What about Gauteng? In Gauteng, the big question is whether you can retain the black middle class, and whether the DA, perhaps in association or in collaboration with Ahang, the kind of new kid on the block, and with Cope, could possibly take the province from you.
I think that we must look at research. And we must
what is the research telling you?
The research is telling us that the 60% of the ANC's solid base, which is the working class and poor people in Gauteng, the LSMs 6,000 and below, firmly support the ANC. And when we look at the demography of Gauteng, yes, there is a question mark around the black middle class, but having said that, it is not entirely true that the entire black middle class will walk away from the ANC. I think that there has been a segment of the black middle class that is much more upwardly mobile, you're almost bourgeois, that are willing to walk away from any political party. But what the research also tells us is that they don't trust the DA either. You know, so they're out there. They are in that 16%.
So those are your swing votes.
Mm-hmm. They're in that 16% swing
and they're
vote.
up for grabs.
They're up for grabs. And I think that when we go door to door in Soweto, for example, we're not getting a go away. When we go door to door in Alexandra, for instance, we're not getting a go away because there's been real delivery in those areas.
Now, traditionally, you've been very strong in rural communities.
Yes.
Your vote hasn't fallen in terms of PR terms below 70%. Are you confident, Jessie, that you'll hold on to that 70%?
It's a very difficult question, and I'm not going to give you percentages. All
Right.
I'm telling you is that what we're hearing from our constituency is that you've done very well, and there are some challenges that you need to solve and fix. Can you do that? We're not saying we're not going to vote for you, but we want you to fix these things. And they talk about the things they would like us to fix. In Limpopo, the big question has been corruption. The electorate in Limpopo have been very happy with the fact that there's been a move away from the provincial PEC in that province, and they've seen results in terms of the ANC taking decisions against people. They were happy with the delivery to some extent, but they're unhappy with the fact that a portion of that delivery has come by because people have gone through tender processes that have not been corrected. Now that that's been corrected, people are saying we're coming back to the ANC, but they point out what must be corrected. The ANC constituency is not afraid of telling its organization where to fix what. And we are doing what we do in every election. We're going to every household in the rural areas, and we're talking directly to people. We're not leaving the message to be given by analysts or our message to be given by journalists. We're going to give it ourselves.
Final question. There's been a lot of discussion around what kind of percentage the ANC would get in the national election. Many people are saying that we're going to perhaps see the first time a drop below 60%. First of all, do you think you're going to be holding on to your above 60%? And more importantly, are you pushing for a 2/3 majority? Is that even attainable?
We have never, as the African National Congress, pushed for any particular percentage. We have never pushed for a 2/3 or any majority. We simply say that we will fight this election and do whatever we can to retain as broad a majority as we can, so that our program to deliver to the poorest of the poor and the most vulnerable people in our society can be achieved. So we don't discuss percentages, and we will not. And we do not discuss this ultimate majority of a 2/3 perspective. We have never called for any majority to change the constitution of South Africa. That is not our biggest aim in life. Our biggest aim as the ANC is to make sure that we are able to develop this country so that the poorest of the poor in South Africa can live a better life.